Hello and welcome to NOV Live. I'm Michael Gaines and glad you're joining us today as we continue our conversation, bringing you technical experts and expert perspectives on technology that is helping shape the energy industry. So today is no exception in having a really great insight and conversation as we talk about fiberglass systems here at NOV and green energy and what that means in the world of fiberglass. So certainly for those that are interested, I know that there are many who are looking for ways to bring in advanced technologies and solutions for their businesses. I think that today will be a great conversation to give you more insight and perspective there. So before we jump in and bring in our guests, we are going to bring Shelby Dumaine in to talk about how you can be a part of our conversation today. Hey, Shelby, good to see you.
Hey, Michael, it's great to see you as well. And I want to thank all of our viewers for joining today's stream. I'm really excited. Like you said, we have a really great topic coming up. And so I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's questions and comments in the comment section. So if you want to ask our experts any of your questions, you can do so at any time throughout the show. Whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can just type your comments in, comment it. I'm in those comment sections throughout the entire show, reading everything and watching what everyone's saying. I love especially to see where everyone's tuning in from. So if you want to let us know right now where you're watching from, I've seen everything. Let's say I see California right now, Nigeria, seeing some really great people from all over the world. And so I look forward to seeing what questions you have for our experts. And if you want to watch any past episodes, I also wanted to mention you can do so at nov.com/live. So that URL is on screen there. You can go there, watch all of the past episodes. And if you have a question on any of those past ones, I want to make sure we can get that answered still by our experts. So you can email us at socialmedia@nov.com. So just reach out to us if you have a question on any past episode there at that email. But again, if you have a question today, just feel free to go ahead and comment it. And like I said, we're going to get to as many as we can before the end of the show. But for right now, it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show every week. It's time for Rig Geek Post of the Week.
Rig Geeks Post of the Week.
All right. And this week, I'm hoping I tried to do a little bit of an easier one for our Rig Geeks. For our fans of fiberglass out there in the comments, I want to see if you can guess what is another name for fiberglass. So if you think you know, go ahead and put it in the comments, and we're going to answer it at the end of the show. But if you think you know another name for fiberglass, go ahead and let us know. There might be a couple, but I'm searching for one specific kind of industry term that can be a substitute for fiberglass.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not a fan of multiple answer trivia, but it's okay. I'll play along today. And I'm never surprised at our viewers. They always come through. Someone always has the right answer, which is really fun.
Every time.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Shelby. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, today we are, as Shelby has alluded to, we are going to be jumping into talking about fiberglass technologies and have two experts here with us today to provide some perspectives on how NOV is helping provide solutions in that space. So we're going to go ahead and bring our two guests in. We have Lamont Inglehart and Blake Herbert. So both are joining us today live from the Houston area. So Lamont, Blake, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to maybe start with you, Lamont. So I obviously you're in the fiberglass world day in and day out. So you have a front row seat into seeing how fiberglass obviously can help in many areas from efficiencies, weight savings. I know we're going to talk about that, but one of the a prominent area that it helps is in the space of carbon emissions. Mm-hmm. And so I know that that's in the forefront of many, both industries and larger governments and things of that nature. So wanted to talk about what you and the team are doing to help with carbon emissions as it relates to fiberglass.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. At Fiberglass Systems, and NOV as a whole, carbon emissions we take seriously. We've implemented a lot of KPIs to monitor our waste reduction and material reuse. We're looking at LED lighting, any other ways that we can reduce our net energy consumption. As you can see right there, that's a chart provided by the IEA, and that just shows, the vast majority of energy out there is through combustion. And so everything is putting out CO2. So if you can use less energy, you can save on CO2. And one of the, that's one of these things that's driving us. We're also looking at it being able to implement renewable energy sources at our manufacturing facilities. Anything that can reduce the net energy out there can save on CO2 emissions. But one of the things that we think we can have the greatest impact on is helping our customers make the best decision for their carbon footprint, meaning how can we help them reduce their carbon footprint? And so to highlight that, we did a comparative study between glass reinforced epoxy, or GRE piping, and carbon steel piping. And what we found was there was numerous avenues when using composite piping that we could reduce our customers' carbon footprint.
So Blake, wanted to get your perspective as well. When I'm looking at an organization or an entity that is able to utilize fiberglass piping, how does that actually help reduce their carbon footprint?
So there are many different factors when it comes to a specific product and their carbon footprint. But in this study, what we're finding is that one of the main factors that we came across was how much energy it takes to produce and manufacture the product. So in the study, we took a deep dive into, a common pipe diameter that we deal with, and kind of dug up how much CO2 is produced when manufacturing this pipe. Anything from producing the raw materials to making that raw material finished product. And what we actually found was that when we compared the fiberglass pipes to carbon steel pipes, we were able to reduce the amount of CO2 that was produced by around 31% just in the manufacturing process alone.
Oh, wow. So then, you said that there's several different ways that that you can have a positive impact on carbon emissions and carbon footprint, I should say. So what are some other ways that a CO2 footprint can be reduced using fiberglass products?
Yeah, so one of the other big factors that we came across was just the lightweight nature of fiberglass pipes. For instance, if you need to ship a certain amount of pipe to a project site, if you use the fiberglass pipe, it's going to be a lot lighter. So the reason why this is beneficial is because when shipping product, there's a couple different limitations that you can come across. You can either come across the weight limitation or the dimensional limitation of the truck that's shipping. And what we found is that for carbon steel pipes, it maxes out in the weight before the volume, and fiberglass pipes maxes out at volume allowance. So that means that they'll take less hauls to transport the same amount of pipe, a fiberglass pipe, and each haul will also be lighter. And with that said, a lot less emissions would be produced. And so what we found actually is that you could save up to about 77% of CO2 production when it comes to using fiberglass pipe as opposed to carbon steel pipe. Another avenue that this lightweight system can help reduce carbon emissions is when you look at marine vessels. So the shipping industry in general produces about 3% of the global carbon dioxide that's released into the air. And so that is, a pretty significant number. It's bigger than many countries of CO2 that's being produced. And so any way you can reduce that is, great. And so in a recent study that we found, when we were able to change out the steel firewater system, piping systems in a ship, we were able to reduce the weight by about 23 metric tons in that ship. And say if that 23 metric tons was, saved across the entire shipping container industry, we'd be able to reduce the carbon emissions by about 50,000 metric tons of CO2 annually, just by that small shipping or that small piping system being replaced.
Right. Yeah. And those small changes obviously have big impact. So today we are, for those that are just tuning in, we are talking about fiberglass systems and fiberglass pipe and other solutions from the team here at NOV. So if you have questions related to fiberglass pipe or anything that we've discussed today, feel free to put your question in the comments section here on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. And in just a few moments, we'll transition over to our experts and turn the tables and allow them to answer your questions today here on NOV Live. So feel free to put those in, and we'll get to those in just a few moments. Lamont, I want to now turn back over to you. One of the things that Blake just mentioned, of course, was talking about the significant impact that can be had in the marine space. And so, of course, the other side of my brain says, okay, which is really great. But now I'm looking back on shore and looking in a land capacity and curious to know how you look at that space. What are some of the potential opportunities there?
Yeah. So you save on CO2 when you install the product. So in a head-to-head, you've got less carbon production to produce the piping system. But there's also a recurring savings by using fiberglass piping. Fiberglass has a much smoother bore than steel. And ultimately, that means to pump the same fluid, the same distance, you're going to use a lot less energy. And using that less energy means, less energy, less CO2 into the environment. And so one of these things that we wanted to actually make a note of is the tremendous savings on you get right there. That's just a little snippet of how much energy savings you can use in a typical piping system. You're using roughly 40% that of steel. And so the key there is that's a head-to-head on the initial condition of the steel. Steel over time will corrode. So actually the pumping requirements of steel long-term will actually go up. So your savings will actually increase well above that number right there. And so that's an important distinction we wanted to make sure. Another one that we really wanted to point out is the total CO2 produced in the life cycle of the project. So if you put a project that's going to last 20, 30 years and you put in a steel piping system, very high probability with given corrosion, you're going to have to replace that carbon steel piping system at some point in there. So even though head-to-head fiberglass can beat the carbon steel with a smaller carbon footprint, you're going to effectively double the carbon footprint of the steel when you have to replace that steel piping for that same project. So it's a very important distinction that we wanted to make sure they know long-term over the lifetime that there's an ongoing recurring savings in energy and thus lower CO2 contributions. So anywhere you can basically displace a steel for fiberglass, you're going to effectively save CO2 and putting it in, and long-term on maintenance and having to replacement and the life cycle of the whole project, you'll save additional CO2.
I know that one of the challenges we always have is we're always short on time, but certainly full on information. And I know that both Blake and yourself, Lamont, have worked together with the teams to provide additional resources. So for those that'd like to maybe on their own take a little more deep dive and look at some resources, where would you suggest the best place is to do that?
So there'll be a link provided. You'll be able to get it on our website beginning tomorrow. You'll be able to download the white paper itself that discusses the pros and cons and shows you where this savings is. And then there'll be a forthcoming brochure that kind of summarizes everything to kind of give you a quick down and dirty savings potential going to fiberglass.
Great. All right. Well, that'll certainly be a worthwhile resource. So thanks for sharing that. And I think at this point, we want to go ahead and bring in Shelby DeMaine to get some of the perspective from our viewers today. Hey, Shelby.
Hey, Michael. Absolutely. So this question comes from something we've heard a lot, which is we've talked before about wired drill pipe. So how does that play into fiberglass, or does it?
I'm sorry, I only got part of your question there.
I was just asking about wired drill pipe and if that if fiberglass is part of that, or how they play in together.
Actually, we don't do drill pipe ourselves. It's one of those markets that, composite drill pipes have been talked about, but it's a really challenging market. But we actually don't do drill pipe.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's the questions I have so far for now. I'll head back to Michael. There he is.
Yeah. Thanks, Shelby. So, I think I actually had a question for both of you, both Blake and Lamont, or whoever wants to take it. So, as you look at the fiberglass space and have had the opportunity to talk with those that have, kind of crossed the chasm, so to speak. So maybe have historically been using steel, but then transitioned over to using fiberglass. I'm always interested. It's not quantitative for those that are looking, but from a qualitative standpoint, what's some of the feedback or comments that you've heard over your time there working in this space?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we've had is fiberglass tends to scare end users. Steels are pretty easy. They're pretty dumb. You only really need two material constants, and you can figure it all out. And when they move to composites and fiberglass in general, they tend to get scared. And that's one of the things where we like to hold our customer's hand and show them how to do it. And so if you're considering looking at that, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We can help you out. We know how to help you spec these materials. We know how to work with them, how to design for the lifetime of the project that you're trying to do. And so those are one of those things that it's been the biggest challenge we've had with customers that are new to fiberglass and switching over, is just being able to overcome that initial fear and the extra effort it takes.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. But yeah, I think that as you mentioned, having those conversations and seeing the benefits that it can provide, I think can dispel maybe some of those concerns. So great perspective on that. So I appreciate it. Well, I appreciate you all sharing your insights. Anything else that we didn't cover that maybe we wanted to share with our viewers? I know we have that URL that we can send the web address for them, but anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to touch on?
No, not this. Again, composites are a critical point. They are really growing by leaps and bounds, and that, switching to those and implementing those things is a green decision. And so we want to make sure our customers know that when you're buying a piping system, it is both a financial decision and an environmental one. And so we want to help you guys make the best choice. And so don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're here to help.
All right, great. And actually, I think we may have gotten maybe one or two questions in just now. As it's standard fare for the show. As soon as we're about to pull the curtain, we get some good ones. So I'll let Shelby jump on those real quick before we let you guys go. I know you thought it'd be an easy convo, but here we are.
I know that's the nature of a live show. Is I saw some questions and I was throwing it. Oh, come on, let me come back. Let me ask them. So this first question comes from LinkedIn, and Ahmed wanted to know, have there been examples of this use? I know we talked about the white paper, but where we can't name names of if anyone's implemented it. But can you talk a little bit about some of the actual times it's been used?
The times that carbon steel has been displaced by fiberglass?
Yes, I think that'd be good.
Those oftentimes what we've done to date is less about the green initiative as much as been a corrosion issue. And so oftentimes our customers have come to us when they're dealing with a corrosion issue, and we've been able to solve those problems for them. That the green, lower in carbon footprint reduction has kind of been the value-added benefit. But today, there have been some customers that, it kind of says that, like, kind of light bulb goes on going, hey, that's the greener choice. And so it's becoming a much more important aspect of the purchase. But right now, we've never actually quantified a specific case study in the field.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Excuse me. And we've got another question. Can you talk a little bit about the lifetime of fiberglass pipe as opposed to carbon steel?
Blake, you want to?
Yeah, sure. So when we were doing the study, we kind of looked at, general lifespan expectancy of a carbon steel pipe, and we found that a good minimum value would be about 15 years. There's different factors that depend on that, but this due to corrosion that carbon steel will experience. Whereas with fiberglass pipes, as Monty mentioned earlier, we don't have that corrosion issue. So, we could see pipes lasting for many, many years past that point. So there's no specific value, but we did find that there is a minimum value for carbon steel that's 15 years, and ours would definitely exceed that greatly.
Mm-hmm. And we'll wrap it up with just one more question. And it's a bit of a long one, so I'm going to put it on screen. That sometimes is easier as I read them out loud if y'all wanted to see them there. But Matt Jackson on LinkedIn was wondering, he mentioned that there's an enormous effort towards increasing capacity for hydrogen and ammonia production from green hydrogen production. And he was wondering, are fiberglass piping solutions compatible with moving these two materials?
Yes, they are. And there's several things that have to come into play here. For instance, there's a specific case study where they have approved our FiberSpar product for transportation of hydrogen in the U.S. And that's specifically because they were looking at the spoolable nature and being able to have a significant reduction in the number of joints and be able to move hydrogen at a reasonable clip. Fiberglass itself is fantastic for moving hydrogen. They just have to be aware, depending on the joining systems. Do they need an adhesive joint where they want absolute knowledge that there's no potential leak because they don't want to deal with elastomeric seals? Elastomeric seals can be used. I know they are used in transportation vehicles and in those. So it really depends on what the customer wants and the requirements that they have. But yes, we can be used to move hydrogen.
Mm-hmm. And I know I said maybe last question, but I got to ask, we got some from our audience, and I want to get to as many as we can. So this will be the last one from Avery on LinkedIn. And they're wondering, does fiberglass pipe affect at all? Maybe does it lower leaks with natural gas pipelines, or does it affect leaking at all?
They specifically, leaking is would have to do with the quality of the joining system and whether they've leak tested. You can leak test, you can sniff test. There is ways to validate the joint that you put in there. Now, if they are specifically looking for permeation, that is a different culprit. But no, there's no serious permeation issues that we have. All materials will deal with some type of stuff. I do know there's hydrogen embrittlement issues with steel. So steel transport of hydrogen is a big serious issue. So again, it comes down to what does the market accept and what kind of confidence the end user wants. But we don't have a permeation issue with our fiberglass.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you sticking around for those last minute ones. Like we always say, it never fails, but that's great. That's what we're here for, to get additional insight and perspective from our guest experts for today's show. So I've been speaking about fiberglass piping and other solutions with our guests today, Lamont Inglehart and Blake Herbert. So Lamont, Blake, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, we'll get our Rig Geek Post of the Week question answered by Shelby. For those that I think I saw some comments that were coming in pretty quick at the beginning. So what was that question again? And let's see who got the exact answer that we were looking for today.
All right. So that question we asked, what is another name for fiberglass? And we got some. I think we actually saw a couple got it right. And I did end up. I have two versions of other names just for regional. Some places call it one thing, some places call it another. So we have the two different names for fiberglass. The first one is FRP, which is fiber reinforced plastic. And then the other one, this one might be more of the non-US markets might refer to it as glass reinforced epoxy. So those are the two. And I did also want to mention if any of our viewers want to keep up with fiberglass systems and follow them, they can do so on LinkedIn. They have their own page, Fiberglass Systems. It's tagged in the post. And you can also search Fiberglass Systems on LinkedIn to find them as well.
All right. Great. Well, thanks, Shelby. I really appreciate it. And again, just as a follow-up, if you'd like to look at any additional material or information, as Shelby said, we'll also have this information on the LinkedIn showcase page and also NOV.com/FGS. So on behalf of all of us here at NOV, thank you for watching and for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.